Hello and welcome back to the She Can Ball podcast. I'm your host, Mahi Jariwala. Today I'm joined by WNBA star Monique Billings, a forward for the Atlanta Dream. How are you? I know that you're playing in Russia right now.
Yes. Well, first off, thank you for having me. And I'm doing great. I'm in Orenburg, Russia. I've been here for about a month and things are going good.
And what does kind of like your daily schedule look like right now?
Daily schedule. I have a lot of time on my hands. So I wake up, make a good breakfast. If we have a two-a-day, then like a two-a-day practice, then I'll go to the gym. Usually it's just like shooting and weights in the morning. And then I'll come back home, make some lunch, take a nap, chill for a little bit, and then we have evening practice, and that's like, traditional practice, and then come home again, make some food, and then the next day do it all over again. And if we don't have morning practice, then I get to just relax and chill. Been reading a lot lately, so trying to fill my time up as much as I can, and then have evening practice. So the days change, but yeah.
And I know that you've played in a lot of like foreign places and like, is there a favorite place that you've played overseas?
Totally. So my favorite place was to play in China. I loved playing in China. It was so much fun. The culture was just different, total culture shock, but I like dove in it and I loved it.
That's so cool. That's like the biggest thing. I think playing overseas sounds so cool because you're able to like experience new cultures, but it's like you're still doing it through basketball, the game that you know and love. So,
It's a blessing for sure.
and how do you think like the culture and attitude towards basketball was different in the US and these foreign places?
That's a good question. I don't know if I've ever really thought about that. But one thing that is a big difference between basketball in the United States and overseas, for the most part, is that in the United States, most of the players are pretty athletic and can rely on their athleticism to get them to a certain level.
Yeah.
Whereas overseas, the players are more finesse. They're more, I would say, they use their mind to play the game. So that's a big difference that I've seen.
What do you prefer?
Well, I'm athletic, so I can only speak on the gifts that God has given me. So I'm going to use my athleticism. But honestly, if you can have a combination of both, I totally believe that that'll just allow you to thrive in any environment, every element that you play in.
So true. So today I really want to talk about your journey and how you got to where you are today. So let's start from the beginning. Where did you grow up and how did you first get into basketball?
I grew up in Corona, California, and I really just say it's Los Angeles because no one knows where Corona is. It's about an hour, well, 45 minutes south of Los Angeles. And my dad had asked me when I was around 5, he said, "Do you want to play basketball?" And I really didn't want to at the time, but I wanted to make him proud, so I tried it out. And it was solid. It was solid. I couldn't complain. And then from there, I just have been playing since, and I love it and have found, true love for playing basketball. So that's where I got my start.
Was there like a certain age that you decided like it wasn't just for your dad anymore and it was like something that you really, really loved?
Yeah, ever since I started playing, I started because he suggested that I did, but it was fun. I had fun. I was playing with my friends, and I just loved the competitiveness and the environment that I was in. And so from there, I just really pursued it on my own, even until now.
Yeah, that's awesome. And how did you end up playing basketball at UCLA?
Well, I started by just playing on local teams in Corona, and I have been blessed to be around other players who are really good. So our teams were the teams that I played on were good. I had a good high school team, and so I had a really good, like I said, high school team, and then a good travel ball team, and I was able to be recruited, playing in different tournaments in high school, and yeah, I had the option to go to UCLA.
And what was kind of your recruiting process like?
Um, Man, it feels like so long ago. But my recruiting process, like I said, I was forgetting the word recruited. I was recruited by a lot of different schools, so I had some pretty good options. I would talk on the phone with these different coaches from different schools, and the recruiting process for me was a lot different than for kids now because social media, you guys have social media, so it's just a lot different. But for me, I would talk on the phone with them and hear about their programs And when I was growing up, I was never like, oh, I have to go to UCLA. I have to go to this school. I never really looked at colleges like that. Just wasn't really in my family. I was the first in my family to graduate, in my immediate family.
Wow.
So it was new for me. It was a new process for my family. So I was just present in the moment. I had to ask different questions and tough questions to these different coaches, and then ended up making my decision.
Wow. And what advice would you give to players that are want to get recruited or in that recruiting process right now?
For players that want to get recruited, I would just say put yourself in position to be on that stage, go to the tournaments, work really hard, be great in the classroom, because all of it just adds to being recruited. You know, you could be a great player, but if you don't have good grades, then that makes the recruiting process a lot harder,
Yeah.
much harder than it needs to be. And then if you are being recruited, ask tough questions, ask the uncomfortable questions, really challenge the coaches that are recruiting you, because you're going to be in that environment for 4 years. That's a long time. So make sure you're asking the right questions, have good people around you, and then seek people who have been in your position or have been in the position that you want to go to, or are currently in that position, such as you did. You know, you reached out to me and you asked me to be on your podcast. And I recommend people who are just seeking knowledge to reach out to those people who you want to know from.
Yeah, and that's like a huge reason of why I do this because I know some people might not want to do it or some people don't have access to talking to WNBA players every day. And so it's been really cool to not only learn so much from people, but be able to share that with others.
That's phenomenal. Keep using your platform. That's great.
Thank you. You had a phenomenal college career, over 1,000 career points, and two-time All Pac-12 player. Do you have like a favorite college moment?
Favorite college moment? I mean, what comes to mind? My junior year, that was probably my best year. And I was in a game against Oregon and I went up for a dunk, missed the dunk, but it was still a highlighting moment in my career. And yeah, it just comes to my mind first.
And you were drafted from college to the Atlanta Dream. And how would you kind of compare the intensity of games and practices between the WNBA and college level?
Yeah, so college level, I mean, how do I say this? When you're a pro, you are pretty much on your own. You know, you're responsible for yourself and you have to, it's your job. So you're being paid to play basketball. So you have to show up. No one's going to show up for you. No one's going to want it as bad as you have to want it. You have to want it for yourself. In college, I would just say coaches are a lot more nurturing because you know that you're going to be there for 4 years. They're trying to develop you off the court as well as on the court. So the mentality is a lot different. But as a pro, you have to demand that out of yourself. You have to demand the best for yourself every single day. And like I said, you have to just show up.
And how did it feel when you were drafted to the WNBA? I mean, that's like every girl's dream.
Well, I was just so grateful. I had a lot of gratitude when I was drafted. Um, I mean, it's something that I had worked up my way to dreaming of when I was younger. I didn't know I'd have that opportunity, but throughout college, I saw that door opening up and for that vision to be more possible. So yeah, the moment that it happened just was surreal. I was just so grateful. Yeah, it just was a full circle moment of everything that I've worked for in my life coming to fruition.
Exactly. And how was kind of like that first time that you went out onto the court as a WNBA player?
Oh, I had all the nerves. The first time I went out on the court, I was so nervous. I played a decent amount my very first game. I just played hard. That's one thing that I will do. Like if I wasn't sure about all the plays or I wasn't sure just about the system that I was in, because it was a very new system for me, I
Yeah.
knew I was just going to go out there and play my butt off and do the best that I could. And that's what I did.
Yeah, and that's a huge part of your game, right? And you just hustle, whether that's with rebounds, steals. I struggle with rebounds. What advice would you have for someone struggling with rebounds?
Well, for rebounding, I would definitely say it's all about positioning yourself. So when the ball goes up, and this is just a practice, just like when you practice your shots, you have to practice rebounding it, you know? So when the ball goes up, seeing where it could potentially come off of the basket, being ready and just it's all about, like I said, doing your work early. So putting yourself in the right position. It's kind of hard to explain without showing. I'm a visual learner, but like I said, it's all about position. See yourself in the right position and use your body. It's all about using your legs, boxing people out, and then just going up there and snatching that thing.
Okay. I mean, I haven't been playing because of everything, but I will definitely keep that in mind when it's the
You got it.
and I know that not too long ago you were in the Wubble. How is playing basketball in the Wubble different than just playing and traveling during the normal season?
Playing in the Wubble, I would say, brought a totally new perspective of basketball to me. You know, you have highs and lows, so many highs and lows of being in the Wubble, not being able to have the freedom that I want of going to see my family or going to a restaurant that I want to, just to kind of separate myself from basketball. But then like there were so many different highs, you know, just the fact that we even had a season, the fact that a month before that, 2 months before that, we're in a pandemic. I'm not sure if we're going to have a season or not. So the fact that we did have a season, just so much gratitude. So there was a lot of different emotions, I would say, that came with the Wubble, but I'm just honored and really privileged to be able to have that experience.
And you've had an amazing, career both professionally and in college, but do you have any unexpected challenges that you faced and how did you kind of overcome them?
Yeah, that's a really good question. What comes to mind? Nothing specific, I would say, really comes to mind, but I mean, there's always challenges. I would just say you always have to just be on your toes and be ready for whatever comes. And that comes with just staying present, staying in the moment, not getting too far ahead of yourself, but also not looking too far in the past and just being right where your feet are and being ready for anything that's presented to you and that comes your way.
Yeah, that's so true. I kind of had this problem last fall when I was playing, and I wasn't really in the moment when I would play, and I was doing well in practice, and I would just have so much fun, and I would play really well, but then in games I'd be like, all right, it has to be more serious, and I would start like everything has to go perfect, and I was basically trying to be perfect, and I think during this quarantine I've just realized like you just need to stay in the moment. But do you have any advice for like staying in the moment? Because that can be hard.
Yeah, that is hard. And you sound wise beyond your years for being able to realize, you know, when that happens. But for me, it kind of like how you just stated, just being aware. So if you're not in the moment, try to identify why and figure out the root of that, you know, whether it's you're feeling anxious, you're unsure, there's a lot of different reasons of why you're not in the moment. So I feel like you have to identify why and then just come back to your center, come back to being grounded. That has always worked for me, of just grounding myself in the present moment and saying, you know what, thank you, God, for this moment. I'm so grateful just to be
Yeah.
here right now. You know, I'm breathing, I'm healthy, I'm prospering, and just talking myself back into the moment. I feel like it's something that I've had to learn.
Yeah. And kind of going a little into that even more. I know that you're playing basketball at like the highest stage there is, and I got butterflies before my eighth grade tournaments. And so how do you kind of deal with pregame nerves?
Mm, that's tough. Yeah, I still get pregame nerves. I don't think they ever go away, Mahi. But
God.
um, a lot of things that I try to do are being mindful of what I'm intaking mentally, spiritually before my game. So for me, I can't listen to a lot of like rowdy hip hop, ratchet music before the game starts, like a lot of my peers do.
Yeah.
I have to listen to jazz. And I didn't realize that when I was your age, but just over time of just trial and error, just figuring out my process, what works best for me. I like listening to relaxing, calming music. I listen to meditations before I get on the court. Those help me to calm my nerves and just anything that I feel like can reassure me. So it's for someone else, if they like listening to ratchet music or, you know, rowdy hip hop music, and that is their calming mechanism, great. You just have to realize what your calming mechanism is. Everyone is different. So whatever kind of puts you in that zone mentally, takes you to a place where you feel calm, where you feel confident. Maybe it reminds you of a moment that you've had in life. Everyone is going to be different, but if you can identify yours, that's so important and so key.
Yeah, nothing with the jazz music. I had another UCLA player, I think a few months ago, Natalie Cho, and she had a similar response. So she likes to listen to calming music before as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So what is kind of like your pregame ritual?
Pre-game ritual. Okay, so if we have a home game, after shoot around, I love coming home and cooking brunch. I don't know why, but this is just my thing. Like I make a great brunch and I just first of all, I'm a foodie. I love to eat.
Same.
So when I come home, yes, girl. So when I come home and I'm preparing for my game, I love just getting a nice meal in me, a nice, solid, wholesome meal.
What do you usually make in your brunch?
So I switch it up. I don't do the same thing all the time, but some of the things I like to make are potatoes. I make some fire potatoes.
Oh man,
Um,
I need to try some of your potatoes now.
right, I got you. Pancakes, bacon, eggs, of course. Sometimes I'll do like avocado toast or oatmeal. I don't eat all of that in one sitting, but those are just like the different options depending on what I'm feeling that day.
Same, I love those foods. Like avocado toast is like my go-to. Like I had avocado toast yesterday at like 3 o'clock.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. What do you think female basketball players should be working on during these unprecedented times?
Hmm. Well, two things come to mind for me. I would just say don't let the limitation of maybe not having a gym or a place that you're used to and comfortable working out at,
Mhm.
don't let that limit you from bettering yourself. During the pandemic, I kind of was in a funk because I haven't played basketball outside since I was young. And I had to humble myself and I had to go outside for the first couple of weeks when I didn't have a gym. And it took me some time to get to that point, but I had to realize like I can't let the lack of resources right now stop me from bettering my game. So for young female hoopers, get out there in the garage, in the front yard, wherever you can.
Yeah.
Get a basketball and just dribble it. Work on your handle. That's something that I had to do. I did some awesome Instagram lives with Bill Handy. That was super helpful for me.
Oh, that's right. I remember that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just continually working on your game despite the circumstances is super important. And then even off the court, something that I wish I would have done when I was younger, I'm going to say your age,
Hmm.
it's just really start to learn the mental side of the game. I feel like I'm coming into that aspect of my game now, but try to read books, do different things. I know when you're younger, you don't want to read books and you have school and it's a lot, I know, but try to just learn something that you're maybe interested in. Maybe you want to start thinking about what life after basketball would look like.
Yeah.
And I feel like for women and young girls and for guys, I feel like it's just good to have a focus of more than one thing, not just being so basketball centered, but balancing it out and making sure you have other outlets as well so you don't burn out.
Exactly. And that's such a big problem. And I think now, oh, you have to be in the gym. Like there's some girl out there working 3 hours a day. And it's like we always get these mixed messages because we don't know. And honestly, I don't know. Because sometimes I'm like, should I be training more or should I be taking a rest day? It's hard. And I've tried to kind of touch on that in some of these. What is kind of like your philosophy on rest days? How does your system work?
Yeah, so like you said, it is hard, but it's all about balance and listening to your body. You know what? The system that works for one person might not work for you. The system that works for me might not work for you, and your system might not work for me. So you have to figure out what is the best system for me? How can I be at my best? How can I feel at my best? For me, I know I need at least 1 to 2 off days a week, depending on what season I'm in, or, I just have developed my pattern. So
Yeah.
it's just all about reps and developing your pattern and not comparing your system to someone else's, maybe borrowing something that works for them. But always when you're young, even until just at any age, I would just say be willing to try different things. Sometimes you'll have a system that works for a certain amount of time and then it doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
So being willing to adjust and to try new things is super important.
Yeah, and I think like the way something you said in there was like don't try to like copy someone else's, and you can borrow stuff from other people. And I think that's a really great way of even looking at it for basketball. And I think especially right now because, I'm going into high school and a lot of girls are like trying to get recruited. And like the biggest way I thought of it was like you just need to add a bunch of stuff to your game because it's like, why would someone want you rather than someone wanting someone else? But I think the biggest thing you need to look at is like this is your game and like this is how you play. And so if you have, if you're lacking in something and you see someone else has that, okay, maybe you can use that move. You can kind of borrow things, but like your game is always going to be different than
Mm-hmm.
other people's. And like, but that's your game. And like, you really need to work on your strengths and kind of build your game because you don't want to be like
Exactly.
everybody else.
You got it, girl. It sounds like you giving me knowledge right now. No, absolutely. You have to figure out what you're good at and stick to it. I'm good at rebounding, and that's my moneymaker.
Yeah.
If you figured out that rebounding is not necessarily your strong point, figure out what is your strong point, and then just be great at that.
Yeah. And I think like for me, because I really like to shoot. And so I've been kind of working on that instead of like, and I remember during the season, I would kind of be like, oh, like I feel like I should be better at other stuff. But instead, like I've just added stuff. So I've been working on ball handling and like, getting shots off, like off the move and things like that. So very true.
That's fantastic.
So what are some skills that you think that you've learned in basketball that you think are kind of transferable off the court?
Some skills that I've learned on the court or just in a team environment are leadership. I would say leadership is a big thing. And there's so many different types of leaders. You have people who want to use their voice and lead in that way. There's people who lead by example and who are more quiet. So I feel like being a leader is something that I've had to learn at all the different levels that I've played, and just developing confidence in what I stand for, confidence in who I am, and not letting my environments rock me or shake me of that, but just being solid in my foundation of knowing who I am before being a basketball player. So just having a solid identity, being confident in that. I feel like that's something that I've also learned throughout the different levels of basketball that I've played.
Yeah, and I also think like, you going from high school to college to pro and even like playing overseas, it's kind of hard to adjust to different places and still feel confident. And so like, how did you kind of adjust when you're moving different levels, especially making those jumps? They're not easy.
So I would say it goes back to being present. So being in the present moment and being there. I like to say be there now. And also being willing to be a sponge at every level that you're at, anywhere in life, any job, any sport, anything you do, be a sponge. I like learning. I like learning from people. I call them my OGs, the people who are older than me, people who I feel like I want to aspire to be. I'm always asking questions. And it seems like you do a good job of that. I don't know you that well, but it seems like you do a good job of that. And I'm sure you can inspire your peers to do that as well, because it's so important to learn from people who you admire, not just sit back and watch, but watch and then ask questions and be confident in that.
Yeah, and I think that's so cool because we watch these people on TV, but we don't really learn about their backstory or what they've gone through or different things. But it's like we all want to go there. We all want to go there, and it's thank you again for taking. I know that you're in rush. I know that the time difference, and that's why I really appreciate you still coming on and talking to me. My last question for you is, what do you think needs to be done in order for women's basketball to earn the respect that it deserves?
I think women's basketball, just simply that. I would just say people need to put some respect on women's basketball. And that just comes from respecting the art, from men not putting us down, from NBA players lifting us up, which they have been, which is fantastic. I would just say people coming together and just respecting the art, respecting the hustle, respecting what we do, and whether they like it or not, respecting the fact that we're out here grinding, we're out here working hard. Women's basketball is a positive thing. It's not a negative thing. And right now the world needs a lot of positivity. So just embracing the positivity that comes with it, embracing the fact that we can inspire and empower young women, young girls to have a dream, to follow through with that dream, whether it be basketball, whether it not be basketball. Just giving women's basketball players and just women's athletes in general that visibility for young women, even young guys, to be able to see us, to respect us, to feel empowered, to feel inspired, to go pursue their own dreams.
Yeah. Well, that was an amazing answer. And thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate your time so much. And I really had a great time talking to you today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Keep up the good work. Keep interviewing people. I think this is awesome. I love your mission and what you're doing, and you're young. So just keep learning and keep growing.
That's the end of the episode. Thank you so much for staying to the end. Make sure you follow us on Instagram at she.can.ball, and I will see you all next time. Bye!